Welcome to the Burn Up Podcast. It's an honor, and I'm really excited today to have Al Richards with me. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Al is the founder of The Other Side of Addiction, runs a successful podcast. You've had how many episodes now?
I think 337,
Yeah,
338.
Been doing this for a while. And addiction, I believe, affects all of us. In one form or another, each one of us has some sort of an addiction. And for many people, it can take over, and it can ruin lives, not only for their own and for the people around them. And it's real. And I'm excited today to share Al's story and what he's learned, his own battles of addiction, as we kind of go back and forth with the idea of hoping and letting people know that no matter where you are or happen to be in an addictive cycle, you can get out of it, even if it feels impossible. And for me, addiction, and we'll get into this, is really rooted in avoidance. And as you lean in to do the things, even though it's hard and it's uncomfortable, like there's no way to get out of whatever you're at until you actually move forward. Addiction many times for me is like kicking the can down the road. It's like, I'll get to it, but the pain of not doing it then creates, the turn to of whatever happens to be. But again, you're much more of a specialist than I am in this, so let's jump into this. Again, thank you for being here today, Al.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So let's jump into your story. What happened with you? How did you even get into this in the first place?
Get into doing the podcast or getting into the addiction?
Again, you got into the podcast, as we were talking beforehand,
yeah.
Your own battles of addiction. Let's talk about your own personal journey with addiction.
Okay. Gosh, it's something that you never realize it's going to happen. I didn't even start smoking pot till 2 weeks before I graduated high school. And then I graduated in 81, went and started working construction and went to Denver and had some roommates. And I remember one of my buddies come over and pulls out this little envelope, and I'm like, what's this? And he's pouring it on a saucer, and he's like, oh, it's Coke. He's like, you want some? I'm like, oh, hell no. John Belushi just freaking overdosed and passed away. I don't want anything to do with it. And then as we got drinking during the night, not peer pressure. He didn't pressure me, but I'm like, hey, let's try this stuff. And as soon as I snorted my first line, I was in love. I was like, oh my gosh, this is some really good stuff. And it's not really that I was battling or didn't feel like I was battling different things, because, a lot of those who fall into addiction around the puberty age, 11, 12, 13, and 14 years. Anyway, the majority of my guests have fallen into that. I mean, I had a dad that was hard on me. Maybe some of that was it, or maybe just some of it was just I finally felt some freedom from somewhere, not realizing where it was going to take my life years down the road. So fast forward, it was something that I just did every once in a great while. If there was a party and it was there, I'd do some. It never dawned on me to go get any more. And I started working for a manufacturing company, worked my way up the corporate ladder, spent 3 years in Bowling Green, Kentucky, training mechanics, getting the plant up and going. And I come back to Salt Lake, and all of a sudden the pressure just started getting put on me. Next thing I knew, I was over one department, over another department, and this and this and this, and it just started piling up. And my wife and I got invited to a party. And one of the guys come up to me and he's like, so you party? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm at this party, And he goes, no, and he's doing this. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, yeah, it's been a long time. Went in the back room, did some lines, not realizing who he was. But for the first time, Adam, and I don't know how long, I had no pressure of work. I wasn't thinking about what I needed to do on Monday. My life literally just calmed right down. No stress, no anxiety. I had one of the best times that I had had in a long time. And I started thinking about it a little bit. And this guy, I didn't get his number or anything. I knew who he was or met him, but my wife knew who he was. And I said, it was like a couple weeks after that. And I said, hey, do you know how to get this guy's information? She's like, yeah. And I said, yeah, I'd like to get his number. So I called him up and I said, hey, this is Al. He called me Cowboy because I had cowboy boots on. So he nicknamed me Cowboy. And he goes, I says, hey, do you know where I can get some of that stuff? He goes, yeah. I'm like, where? And he goes, me. Well, he's a dealer. That's why he gave it to me for free that night, right? Hoping he'd get me hooked. Yeah. And he did. And he flipping did. And I said, yeah, I'd like to grab some more. And I did it, and then waited a couple weeks, did it again, waited about another week, did it again. After that, man, I was hooked. It was every Friday and Saturday. And I ended up getting a divorce, ended up meeting another girl. We dated for 3 years. The whole 3 years that we dated, I was snorting cocaine behind her back. And she always used to tell me, how the hell can you drink so much? Well, she didn't know I was using something to help me so I could drink more.
That's why a lot of people do coke, is they keep the party going.
Keeps the party going, yeah. Because if I started getting too drunk, I snorted more coke.
Yeah.
If I started to get too high, I'd drink more alcohol. So all night long, I'm doing this balancing act, And we ended up getting married 3 years later, and a year or a month and a half after we got married, I got asked to do a drug test. Hadn't been drug tested in 15 years out of the 24 years that I was there, and I failed. And
so
it was
before
hard.
we started the podcast, you're kind of giving me a backdrop and losing your. I mean, so you lost your job because of
it.
Because of the drug.
24-year career.
Boom. Okay.
Yeah, at a job that I loved. I mean, I really loved it. Except for about the last 6 months I was there. Corporate had bought it, came in, everybody was at each other's back, stabbing each other in the back to show corporate who they were and what they could do. And it got to where, man, I didn't even want to go into work anymore for the first time in 24 years. But having that party, man, that was it. But, Adam, we talked before the show about a lot of times we got to go through that darkness to get to the light. Unfortunately, few people, they stay in that darkness. Others, for some reason, somehow we were able to pull something within inside of us, and we can start working our way out.
So I'm curious, because I've sat with that, in my own darkness and feeling fortunate and grateful that I'm alive today because I didn't succumb to my darkness. And yet there's so many people that do, right? And I've had to ask myself multiple times, like, why did I survive that? Why did I choose not? I mean, just the pain that I went through during that difficult season, turning to substances and behaviors just to try to numb out. And literally every day felt like a week. Weeks felt like months, just frozen with anxiety, fear, pain. And, and I don't know if you got into this space too. I mean, when someone gets into a suicidal state, you completely, it's almost like disassociating from reality. You can't see clear. You start to convince yourself that people are better off with you. I mean, you literally, if you've written this thing that in your head, basically, that like, oh, you've convinced yourself, and looking back, I can't even believe I was in that headspace. And, people over the years have talked about, oh, I'm being suicidal, I'm being in darkness. It's like, yeah, I've had thoughts like this or that, but like probably everybody in one form or another, but like not that. That was different. And it went on for several months, and it was so painful. And then you get into this shame cycle and you isolate and you pull yourself away, and then it's like, and then I'm turning to more and more stuff, trying to check out because I don't want to feel the pain. And the truth is, I prolonged my pain significantly. I prolonged the suffering because of the addictive cycles I was in, because it was too painful to face. And fortunate and grateful enough that I was able to move through it. But again, there's so many people that don't.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately that there is, and I don't know how you look at it, Adam, but my version is we can't do it alone. Whether we look at a higher power or we have somebody that has walked in the same shoes, that understands to help us get going. And man, my higher power is God, and always been a believer. However, just really untouched with everything, or out of touch with everything. And it just, I don't know, it took a couple of weeks after I lost my job to finally hit my knees. And I think I kneeled at the edge of my bed it felt like a half hour to me. And I just sit and bawled and said, how could you have let this happen, right? I'm not taking my own accountability, right? How could you allow this to happen? He knew what he was doing, because it started me on a journey to where I was telling you before the show, where I got a phone call and somebody said, I was known around the planet as a liar and a manipulator. And I called BS on it. And then the more I started searching and the more I started listening, which back in those days, Adam, for me to listen to somebody, my ego was all the way up here, man. My ego it controlled me. And how my ego did not take over at that time, and I sat and started thinking, and I'm like, they're right.
So when you finally got to that space of like, oh my gosh, what's being reflected in me is actually true. What feelings were you feeling at that time? Like, how painful was that? Like, to be able to just accept it?
It was very painful. You know, here I am 45, 46, and this is what I'm known as. And it's like, is this who I want to be? Is this who Al Richards is? I mean, I thought Al Richards was a pretty good dude, right? Again, my ego was feeding all of it. And then coming to realize I'm not even close.
You know, I say this all the time. The hardest person we have ever faced, currently face, or will ever face is ourselves. And it's easy to point a finger. It's easy to point a finger. Well, because of her, because of this, or whatever. But like to just literally turn the mirror and like, you know what? I am 100% responsible for all of this is painful, yet it's freeing.
Oh, yeah.
And having been on the same side of like not being honest with others or myself and like living this perpetual lie, which the truth of the matter is probably subconsciously I knew, but I had told myself a story so many times I believed it. And then having it reflected back, oh my gosh, that's not what it was. And then having to go through the shame and guilt cycle of how I even viewed myself. And it's like, who am I? Like, is that who I am? You know, and I can look back, it's like, that's who I was, or those are decisions I make, but that's not who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think one of the sad things too, just in society, is like everybody has something. And unfortunately, so many people want to hold somebody that's done them wrong or done something, whatever happens to be in their past. And, you know, this whole thing that, you know, people never change. And that is true. There are a lot of people that like have a repetitive cycle to continue to do. And it's like, but there are also people who I happen to be one of. It's like, no, this is what I did. This is who I am today. And in fact, you know, the man that you knew a year ago or 5 years ago isn't even the same guy he is today. Like, I'm not even the same person. I'm the same soul, same heart, same thing, but like the same man? No way. You know, and as a men's coach, and in this, I mean, anyone can feel a sense of imposter syndrome, right? One thing that I subscribe to, this comes back to integrity and just being honest, and which also means like taking full responsibility of the role that I play. I don't want to be a guy, you know, helping coach or guide men that I'm working with if I'm not doing it myself or have done it. You know, there's of course there's pragmatic advice, but it's like, who am I to all of a sudden, hey, you should do this, and this, or consider this, and this, if I haven't done that, right? Or I'm saying I'm saying this is what you should do, but I'm living a different life. Like that's I'm not into that. Mm-hmm. And I've been that guy before, and I think but there's still a lot of people that do that. It's like they put on a mask. You know, I think addiction, frankly, many times is a mask because we're scared to show a particular side of us, or more importantly, face ourselves and the things that aren't working. It's in many ways we have a mask for ourselves, and ripping that mask off and just like, whoo, and just the truth, it is painful. And I still believe today most people struggle just taking radical accountability for the role that they play. It's still too painful. You know, they might take part of it, but to take full responsibility and do it, and then the superpower is to then not attach to it and learn from it and move through it. It's rare to see that these days.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. You know, Joe and I, we've done a lot of talking on stuff, and
just to reference that, Joe Valentine was a previous
Joe
guest
Valentine
on the podcast, and Joe and I know each other, so just to give our listeners context.
Yeah, and, you know, we've even talked about this before going, I'm not the same guy I was last week. Because it's that continuous growth. You know, I like to say in some of my public speaking, it's like, my version is there is no finish line when it comes to bettering ourselves as a human being. There's always work to be done. There's goals. We can hit goals, pick a goal, reach it, pick another goal and reach it. But when it comes to working on us, I think it's a lifetime thing that the majority of us need to go through. And my buddy Cap Summerhays and I, that we used to work together years ago, and we like to say it's that message in the mirror. You know, look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, really look at yourself deep in the mirror, eye to eye. And when you do that enough, you start getting in your soul. At least it did for me. And I started going, this is not who I want to be. I gotta change something. How do I change it? Because the messages I'm getting, the way my life has been going, I've actually created that. I've created my own issues. I've created my own problems. Now life is still going to throw us, I like to call them shitballs. Yeah. Life is going to throw us shitballs no matter what. That's part of life because that's how we grow. But you start looking at yourself in the mirror. You know, I went to a coach's session once, and they gave us homework where we had these 7 affirmations that we had to memorize. And our homework before our next class was to look at ourselves in the mirror, eye to eye, and say the affirmations. My ego kicked in. Hell, I got this. This piece of cake. I've been doing this for the last 7 years. I got this. Went home, started doing it. It took me a couple days before I realized I don't have it. Because I realized every time I went to go say it, I looked away, and then I'd look back. Yeah. And then I'd look away and look back. So I'm like, I don't even believe what I'm telling myself. That's why I'm looking away.
I had a similar experience years ago. One of the first coaches I hired, it was positive affirmations, like speak positive to yourself. And you go to the mirror and say whatever it is, like I'm beautiful, I'm what this, I'm. So I wrote them all down. Of course, writing it down is one thing. Then you go to the mirror, and I couldn't say it. I didn't believe it. I couldn't even look at myself. And I had an accountability partner at the time, and she was like, hey, where are you on this? Have you done this or done that? And it's like, I just made excuses up. I was busy, I did this or whatever. The truth was it hurt. Couldn't do it. I didn't believe it. Like I hated that guy in the mirror. You know, and again, when I was saying like the hardest person we face is ourselves, and it comes back to not being an imposter, it's like, but again, I think we can tell a lie so many times that we believe it. But the truth of the matter is like, who am I? Like you and I are here on this podcast, you know, we're recording this in the afternoon, but who's Adam at midnight in his room when he's alone? Who's that guy? You know, am I the same guy that I am with you as I am there, as I am on social media, as I am with my kids? Like, that's what I'm trying to be. Like, I want to be authentic, and I want to be integrous with myself and with others, but especially with me. Because you can't, again, if you believe in a higher power, God, like, God's watching you do all of this. You can't, like, there's no hiding, like, especially from yourself, even though we pretend to and we hide from it. And I think a lot of people turn to addictive things because they know they're out of alignment. They know they're lying, and it's too painful to speak because what are people going to think? I'm going to be abandoned. Someone's going to leave me. Someone's not going to like me. You know, everybody has all these different fears, which all of that can happen depending upon what's happened. But nevertheless, if you speak to it, you're free. And freedom is priceless. When I was going through the difficult time of losing my company, my investment company several years ago, and I had a coach, and he goes, you're free once, he goes, the example is you're free once you're sitting, you know, you're standing butt ass naked in a stadium of 50,000 people. So he said that at the beginning. I'm like, he goes, you're not even close to that yet. So as we kept getting through it, and I'm like, we there? He's like, nope. Still got shorts and a tank top. You know, we're just kind of doing it. And then when I finally, like, everything came to fruition, and then when I finally went on social and actually shared the thing, then I'm naked.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have nothing to hide. Like, here you go. And it's freeing.
The weight that we hold that we don't realize we're holding. You know, when I started my show, I started it because of my ex that started falling into alcoholism. Being on the other side, now I'm on the other side of the addiction, right? I'm the spouse watching this person that I love and care about destroy her life and everything around it.
You went from being, you started to clean and heal from your own addictions, and then your wife, like, then she started to, so you and obviously you knew that because you'd been there, but then you saw the crossover.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and thought I understood addiction when I really didn't, to be honest with you, even though I battled my own 8-year cocaine and alcohol, you know. But I remember when I first started the show, she was really upset with me because she goes, all you're doing is talking crap about me, I know. And I was like, have you heard the show? Well, no, I haven't heard the show, but I know all you're doing is putting me down and this, that, and the other thing. And I shared a lot of her stuff, which really I learned a long time ago that was a mistake on my part too. That was her story to tell, not my story. What's crazy is I learned a very, very valuable lesson. So I'm friends with Dave DeRocher. He's the executive director.
Dave's been on my podcast.
Yeah, he's an amazing flipping dude. Yeah, great guy. And he was...
In fact, in this new studio here, Dave was my first guest that
was
I had
he?
in this podcast.
And he's powerful dude.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And I'm not talking up here. I'm just talking, soul. Speaking in soul. Yeah, very powerful. And I shared stage with him in 2022 down at the Dixie Convention Center at our very first Hussey event. And after the event, we're all out to dinner, and I said, Dave, man, when we get back to Salt Lake, I want to sit down and chat with you. And he's like, what about? And I says, just want some pointers, right? I'm just starting to speak. You've been doing it for a little while. I want some pointers. I want to grasp the audience like you grasp them. And this was in August 2022. Well, January of 2023, his assistant calls me, says, hey, Dave has time to see you now. And I was like, okay, It was a day that I had my show, and I had a studio at the time. And I went in and sat down in Dave's office. And he comes in, he says, Al, remind me what it was we needed to talk about. And so I reminded him, and he goes, you want to be a powerful speaker, huh? And I said, yeah. And he's sitting on a chair with rollers, probably about 3 or 4 feet from me, and he reaches out and he grabs my knee, and he pulls himself where he's about that far away from my face, and I'm uncomfortable as hell. I'm thinking, what the hell's this guy doing? And he's like, you want to be a powerful speaker? He says, you start telling your effing story instead of your wife's effing story. And he's pointing his finger right in my face, right in my ego's kicking. I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? I mean, immediately I didn't like this guy anymore. And I'm backing up, and he just keeps following me. And all of a sudden something clicked in my head. Because before he did that, he asked permission to speak openly. I'm like, I gave this man permission to speak openly. I owe it to him to listen to what he has to say. I let my ego down. I sat and listened to him. Of course, his assistant, Robin, at the time, she had to jump in, put her 2 cents in. Robin happened to be my guest co-host at the studio that day. After Dave gets done with me, stands up, shakes my hand, gives me a hug, tells me he loves me, chat a little bit, says, you got anything else, man, feel free to reach out to me. And all the way driving to the studio, I'm just running everything that he said in my head. And we get to the studio, Robin shows up, my producer's getting everything ready. My guest doesn't show. Call her, email her, text her, 20 minutes of this, nothing. Robin goes, I guess we're not going to have a show. I says, no, we're going to have a show. And I get emotional a lot through this part because, again, if it wasn't for me to listen to what somebody was telling me, I'd still be stuck. And I says, I'm going to take Dave's advice. I says, Robin, today you're the host of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm going to be the guest. You're going to interview me. And she did. She interviewed me. I told my story on my show for the very first time about my 8-year weekend cocaine and alcohol usage. You talk about being free. Robin said, Al, I was watching the weight just melt off of you the whole time I was interviewing. You started sitting up straighter. These are more blessings that come out of this. 3 months go by, and I'm working on a house in Sandy. My phone rings. I look at it. It's my daughter, my oldest daughter. I pick it up. Hey, sweetie, what's up? And she goes, hey, Dad, what you doing? I'm like, I'm working on a house here in Sandy. She goes, do you have a few minutes? I says, of course, I got a few minutes. She goes, okay, you're not going to like the first part. I could feel my knees getting weak going, what the hell is my daughter going to tell me? She goes, when you first started your show, I wanted to support you 100%. But she goes, the more I listen to the episodes, you continue to play the victim. She goes, now, you had a lot of bad things happen to you while you were battling with your spouse's addiction. But she goes, every episode, oh, it's because of this, oh, because of that, oh, because of this, oh, because of that. And so she goes, I was telling my husband, I don't want to support my dad anymore. It's like, really, why? You and your dad are close. She says, because all he does is whine and bawl and cry about how all this terrible stuff in his life is because of this, And then she goes, but Dad, one day I'm in the kitchen and I'm making dinner. And I'm thumbing through to listen to a podcast while I'm making dinner, and I come across yours and I see a woman's face and not yours. I'm like, this is weird. What's this? And the title said, Own Your Own Shit. So she goes, I clicked on it. And she goes, Dad, I heard the whole show. She goes, I am your biggest supporter. And she goes, I am so flippin' proud of you. To have your child tell you they're proud of you, And that was a big turning point for me, a huge turning point for me. Because, again, if I wouldn't have listened to what Dave would have told me, I still would have been stuck here. I don't know if you've heard of the Cartman's Triangle, right? The Cartman's Triangle. So check it out. It's Karpman triangle. And I had played in that the majority of my life in that bottom triangle. It's an upside down triangle. Victim, persecutor, rescuer. All my life, I'm bouncing back and forth. The upper triangle's a normal triangle, right side up. At the very tip of it, it's the hero, the champion of rewriting your own life. And at that moment, it still took me some time to work through it because of habits. But I got myself out of that bottom triangle. And do I fall back into it here and there? Absolutely. I'm human. However, I've done enough work on myself now to realize when I am back in that bottom triangle.
So you just said something that's very profound. It's really in alignment with transformation that I've experienced around just my mental state. And you just said it's changing the story. See, I believe everything's rooted in a story. And yes, we can play the victim, we can play the martyr, we can play the poor me. Again, that's the easy part, frankly, right? And what you went through, right? This Dave Drush, then all of a sudden your daughter, all of a sudden this reflection starts coming back to you, right? And you, boom, it hurts, stings, painful. Yet that was the catalyst for you to then step into this, speak the truth, free yourself, and choose to rewrite a different narrative or write a different story. And so one of the things I do with men is I help them rewrite their story. So it's one of the core things that I do is who are you? Many times I'll ask a man, who are you? No matter what their success is, whatever, it's I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a provider, I'm a friend. It's just basic stuff, right? But yet they don't even see their own greatness inside of them, or many times I'll ask, who are you? And they'll list all the things they're not, or they'll list all the negative things. It's fascinating to me. So, and I used to be that guy. So again, to be your own hero, you have to actually have everything's rooted in a story. It's rooted in a belief, how we see ourselves, and we can change the script. It's a choice. And what I've found is I've rewritten my own story. The minute I started to really embody this entire process that I take people through in my own life, my life changed overnight. And I embody and I remind myself daily, sometimes multiple times a day, of who I am. And when I say who I am, it's who I want to be is already inside of me. I just have got to be that guy. And what I have found is the more that I embody this, it's big goals, big aspirations, things of how I see myself, I still fall back. I still fall back into old patterns. You just said this, we're human. But the processes that I learn and the processes that I teach is I don't fall as deep, right? The analogy, I literally this morning with a client, I gave the analogy, I'm if you're going down a rabbit hole and you're beating yourself up, your default might be to go down a mile. But if you start to practice this new process of embodying this and changing the script, changing the story, and having a process to move through it, it's like a muscle. You got to practice it. It takes time. You have a program, however old you are, 40 or 50 years that you've been thinking a certain way, and all of a sudden think differently overnight. It doesn't happen. Mm-mm. It takes continual effort and practice. But the more you practice it, instead of the rabbit hole, going down a mile, now you go down 3/4 of a mile. Now you go down half a mile, quarter mile. And then all of a sudden it's that was just a foot.
Yeah.
So you fall back in, but the more you practice is to rewrite the story, the narrative, it's you're able to not go backwards. But everybody, is going to fall back into old patterns. But the more and more you practice it, the more you embody, and that's who you become. And it's fascinating. I used to beat myself up. My negative self-talk used to be so bad. And I was thinking about this literally the other day, and I'm you know what? Of course I have my own insecurities and fears and all the things like anyone else, but I don't talk poorly about myself in my head anymore. I don't do it. It's not even there. And if I have a thing where I'm and I think because I've had so much stuff happen and just there's freedom in just speaking to it, I've just learned through a lot of trial and error and a lot of pain that I don't have to, that's not who I was, that's what I did or this, and I can move through things so much quicker. But the negative chatter, it's gone. Mm-hmm. It's gone. you know, I don't even remember the podcast, but somebody it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and they were talking about like negative self-talk and everything. And I love what he said. He goes, "Oh, I've silenced that bitch a long time ago." You know, and so I'm just like, okay, like, and I've just realized, I'm like, you know what, that's not there.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like what created the catalyst for that was something extremely painful. And I said this before the show to you, I believe, that pain and fear are gifts. We have free will to choose how we react to that, but they're gifts. We don't grow if we're in this constant state of orgasmic pleasure, everything's you don't grow. Mm-hmm. It's when you get punched, like, oh, that hurt, and then sometimes like you get knocked down or whatever. It's like that's when growth happens. That's when you continue to elevate and go higher and higher and higher. But there has to be a catalyst. And again, taking God, I believe in God, and it's like if modern Christianity and a lot of religions teaches that God is this Father, like, and this heavenly Father, if you will. I mean, and again, God could take this away, like you said earlier. It's like, why, God has the power to take this away.
Yeah.
But what kind of, you talk about love. It's like, I love you so much. I love you so much. I'm going to let you go through this, and you're going to find yourself in the pain. That's how much I love you. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, me rescuing you from this actually doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't fix it. You actually need to feel this pain. And for some people, that's deep. And some people succumb to it, unfortunately. But it's like, you need to feel this, and you're going to find yourself in that. The light that we're searching for many times is found in the dark.
Oh, yeah. And my version of it is he continues to keep us in that dark until we get it figured out.
Yeah, we'll continue to repeat patterns until we do it. It's like,
constantly.
why does this keep happening? In every aspect of our life, relationally, physically, mm-hmm. whatever. It's like, until you face it, it's going to continue to present itself. And to face it, you got to acknowledge it, and then you got to take radical accountability. That's like, I'm here because of this. I'm actually here because of me.
Yeah.
And it's such a freeing way of seeing life. And the truth is, like, even where I'm at personally, like, it's so important to me, personal accountability, integrity, right? That it's like, I sometimes struggle to connect with people, or not necessarily struggle to connect, but more importantly, like, I can just see it. Where certain people see that, it's like, well, this is so clear, this is so obvious. And the truth of the matter is, I also believe that, like, what do I know what's best for somebody? I don't know. To me, it's like, maybe this person that's headed down this path that's lying to themselves or lying to others. In fact, I can say this, or we thought about this or whatever, but maybe they need to have so many experiences till they finally hit that punch in the face. And yes, they could avoid that, but maybe their life path is to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. How is it that we know?
Everybody knows that. I would do this, and that's, Joe and I talked about this. It's like, well, I would never do that. If I were you, I'd never do that. Well, you're looking at one thing, and you can't even begin. What are the dozens, hundreds of thousands of decisions that led back to, like, you don't even know all that led to somebody to do something. Mm-hmm. One of the beautiful things about going through something so traumatic and so painful is it garners, I had a coach at the time, he's like, you're just going to get wisdom out of this. And I was pissed. I'm like, just wisdom? Wisdom? That's it? I was like angry at the comment. And wisdom's priceless. But you get another thing is you get empathy. And so when anytime today I hear something, no matter how big it is, did you hear so-and-so did this? Or this happened to this person? My first instinct today is like, I wonder what led them to that. Or there's more to the story. Or I don't even hold people in a box like I used to. Like, I would never do. I because of my own thing and how people have think about me about certain things. Like, I just look at it like, nope. Like, we don't know what led to that. What was going on in their head? How painful. Like, we don't even know. But yet, the world today just wants to, like,
gotta get their comments.
Mm-hmm. Just like, oh, I'd never do that. And then all of a sudden, see you later. And we have no context. Like, there's no curiosity. There's no compassion for those. But I found that people that have been through shit, there's empathy. It's seen. It's like a married couple that's been married for 50 years, and like they're like, we're married, we're 50 years. It's the American dream. But what people don't know behind the scenes is they're miserable, and they're living in separate rooms, and they're not even close. But because they stayed married, that's the picture perfect. Versus someone that's gone through a divorce, that someone like that might look down on them. Right. But what if the divorce was actually the greatest thing that ever could happen to them, and they went on to find love? It's like, we project our own things, and many times we're just projecting our own beliefs, limiting beliefs, insecurities onto other people, and we're just judging them. And it's just a reflection of like,
it is, and that word belief, that is actually a word, Adam, that I'm working on getting out of my vocabulary. And somebody asked me why a couple of weeks ago. I was a guest on another podcast, and they says, "Why are you looking at pulling that out of your vocabulary?" It's like, we're raised by our parents. They do the best that they can, right, with what they have, and they instill different beliefs on us, whether it's religion or work or however they do it. And then we turn around and we try to get somebody to believe what we believe, and then they do the same thing. And I'm like, the word lie is in the word belief. So just because I believe a certain thing, it's not my job to try to get Adam to believe what I believe, because Adam's going to believe what he wants to believe. There's things that I believed a month ago I don't believe anymore, because of how life has taken me, or it's opened my eyes, and I look at things a lot differently. And it's crazy that you even said, how you look at other people. I mean, I was the ones that driving downtown and look at the addicts down there and the homeless and go, geez, get your shit together, man. Come on, there's all kinds of jobs. You can go do this. I start my podcast and I start interviewing people who lived on the streets, and I'm going, whew, story like Joe's. Holy cow, you went through that? My gosh, I'd probably be in the same boat. Who knows? And it does. It starts giving us more empathy about
and
other individuals, and compassion.
It's yeah. No, and they're already, especially someone like that, they're already feeling so horrible about themselves. I mean, it's like someone with the street sign on the side. Like, my default before was, I'm thinking about this as you said that. I go to Starbucks occasionally. It's near my house here, and there's every day, without fail, there's someone homeless holding a sign. Every day. It's across from Sugar House Park. And, what came to mind is just as you said that, it's like, and I don't think anything of it. My default in the past was like, go get a job. Like, this is like, or how much money are you making or whatever. But then at the same time, like, I don't know what trauma that particular person has. I don't know how strung out they might be. I mean, there's just so much that's going on to the fact, and I'm like, that's actually, I don't think that's easy for them just to sit there with a sign. Like, that's got to be like, there's shame and different things attached to that in themselves, but they feel so hopeless and don't know what to do, and they're just like, just, can you please help? I don't, like, who am I to judge that?
Yeah. Exactly. But, where society is so quick to do it. And I'm just as guilty.
But we all, everybody does it. I just think that I am less judgmental than I've ever been. Let's be honest, everybody judges because we have opinions, and it's like, but I find myself to be more in a curious state. And what's fascinating about belief, like, I have core beliefs that are very important to me, like that I'm also open to feedback. I'm, well, actually sometimes I'm not. It's like I'm resolute in something, but I also might change my mind. This is how I feel today, and I'm going to go with it until something in life presents me with something different, and then maybe I'll consider something else, versus like, it's this way or the highway.
Right.
I'm curious you've had 300 plus shows in your are there some common themes you see with those that battle with addiction?
Just the trauma. Really. It's the trauma.
Does it
of
most
going
of it
through
go back
something.
to childhood trauma? Is it recent trauma? Is it like
childhood trauma?
They never dealt with it.
Yeah.
Or didn't know what to do, how to deal
or
with
didn't
it.
know how to deal with it, and some also came down to just how their families were. I mean, I had a guest on my show who was sexually abused by an uncle at the age of 6. And he went home and told his dad, and instead of the dad going and beating up the uncle, he beat him up. Said, don't you ever speak of it again. It didn't happen. And he got molested all the way up until he was about a teenager. And of course, he went out on the streets and started using drugs and started trying to put the Band-Aid over it and numb himself out, and that's what got him in his addiction. People like Joe, we've brought him up quite a few times, lost the parents and went through living with his brother and, was abused there, and then 13 different foster homes. And I mean, why not numb yourself? He was an angry young man, and he'll tell you too. He's probably said it right. Well, I think he did say it on your show. I was a very angry young man. Very angry, So again, we don't know where other people have gone, and we don't know what their story is. And once we understand everyone has a story, some worse than others, it takes a lot of that judgment away, you know. And even falling back into the addiction part of things, and so much we just want to forget. And it's that cycle of working our way out of it. When we fell into the cycle of becoming addicted to whatever it was, it took time. Didn't happen overnight. And so many of us, we want things right now, right? We want instant gratification. And it takes time to get us out of that. And I think so many individuals who really do want it bad enough, but yet it's like, I've been doing this for 3 months and I'm not better. So what's the use? You know, and I'm sure Dave even said it takes a long time before those neurons start firing differently, and you start firing healthier neurons, and you start thinking differently, and you start acting differently, and it takes that time. And as long as you give yourself that time and you be patient with yourself, that's when life starts changing. You know, I this podcast that I was on a couple weeks ago, the host says, "What brings you joy?" And right off the bat, I said, "Oh, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that question." And then I thought, no, wait a minute, I have. My answer was my grandkids, going hiking, playing golf, being around family. Those answers didn't come out of my mouth. And I stopped and I really started thinking about it. And the work that I have put in the past 17, 18 years on myself, I said, you know what, Carrie? What brings me joy? I said, for the first time, I'm in love with Al Richards. I love the man that I am today. I love the friend that I am today. I love the papa that I am today. Because when I speak the truth. We talked about integrity, accountability. That means so much to me. Coming from a guy who was a liar and a manipulator back then, this means so frickin' much to me. I still have a lot of work ahead of me, and I'm okay with it. And I'm okay however much time it takes, because I know every day, as long as I'm taking steps, whether they're baby steps or full steps, I'm moving in the right direction, as long as I don't allow myself to go back, you know?
Yeah, I mean, powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's, you know, as you're asking with joy, I'm just thinking even myself, you know, and there's lots of things that bring me joy, but the thing that I'm the most proud of is my own transformation. It's been hard, painful, you know, and it's lonely. Change is hard, and it's interesting when someone, you know, again, you ask for growth or transformation to up level, like it can be a very lonely journey. And I've heard influencers heard that on social all the time, right? Just even before I started on my transformation, and then all of a sudden stepping into it, and then you start to see life through a different pair of lenses, and you start to grow and elevate. And it's not that I'm better; it's just a resonance. It's energy, you know. And taking radical accountability for decisions I made, and losing lots of people that I love and care about, some because of me, others not, making choices, very painful. And yet, as you continue on this path of personal integrity, when I make decisions and like really leaning into it and following through on the commitments that I make with myself, with little things, it you know, choosing not to. I mean, I love drinking. Like, you know, I'm training for a fitness show right now, and so it's for the most, you know, other than here and there, I haven't really drank in a long time, and but I love it. It's fun, you know. And so instead of going out with friends or whatever on a Friday night, I'm staying home. You know, I get FOMO every once in a while, but like I've chosen this. You know, it could be something as simple as that, or just resonating and doing stuff. And it's like I have really big goals and aspirations, and it's like if I'm going to achieve those, even with health, like, you know, I've shared this with you before the show, but I talk about it all the time. It's like I used to weigh 350 pounds. Food was my drug. Eating was the addiction. It's how I managed my emotions. So to think that at the time of this recording, going from 350 pounds to here within, you know, 6-7 weeks, I could be on stage in a fitness competition is mind blowing. Mm-hmm. Like, but I did it, and I'm not special. I just made decisions, and I've had an unhealthy attachment to food for most of my life. Even today, if I get triggered, the first instinct is food, sugar. That was my default for 40 plus years, 45 years. So, of course it comes up. And I'm so disciplined and so dialed that it's like I'm choosing not to do it. It's not easy. But what I found is like that temporary of like wanting to seek this. So whether it's food, drug, whatever it happens to be, it's uncomfortable. I want something, basically there's emotion that I want to numb or I want to feel or many times not feel. But if I stay in the uncomfortableness just for a minute, what I've learned is just if I just acknowledge that, like, I'm uncomfortable right now, just accept it. Don't get upset about it. Don't, if I sit in it, the universe will move it with a matter of seconds. But then what comes after that, it's the dopamine hit that I didn't succumb to something as simple, and it could be something as simple as a cookie, or it could be something as simple as I didn't drink that or smoke that or whatever it happens to be. It's like I chose not to, even though I wanted to. This sense of euphoria, the sense of like, you know what, I said I wasn't going to do it, and I didn't do it, right? Because it's easy to lie to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Even if I haven't told anybody, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's one thing to tell people. It's another, like, I've just told myself, like, I'm choosing not to, and then still to honor my own word. That's powerful. And the sense of accomplishment, and it's the confidence that it instills. Like, I feel on fire when I fall through on the commitments I make. Nothing spoken.
The dopamine hit is higher, it
so
seems
high.
like.
It's like, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. And it's like, so even on this health journey, like, I am so dialed with it right now, and I'm so disciplined, and the more I go, I'm in uncharted territory. And I've never been in this good of shape. And so it's like as I go deeper and deeper and deeper, I'm just like, this is next level. How far can I take this? Like, what's really possible? It's just been my mind and the stories I've told myself, but it requires a different level of discipline. And I've had to apply that level of discipline in multiple areas of my life. And it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And so hearing you say, like, I think that for me, that's the thing I'm most proud of, just as you. It's like I'm grateful from like where I was to who I am today and where I'm headed, and it's sad, especially for men. I think most men live with one form or another of regret, not reaching their full potential, whatever that is, constantly thinking they're not enough. And that's where I found a lot of addictive patterns for men get into that play, right? Because it's like, oh gosh, I wish I could make this much, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. But the truth is they're not willing to do what's necessary to get there.
Yeah.
And the pain of not being able to fully lean into that so if I want something, I'm not willing to do it, it resonates to such a degree it could actually throw someone into a deeper depression. They don't want to feel those negative feelings or the anxiety, which the anxiety is really a calling. It's like God saying, let's go, brother. You want it? Go get it. No one's going to give it to you. But so many people turn to addictive patterns and behaviors in that energy, and it keeps them stuck. And so many people I know never fully reach it, and they live a life of regret, a life of shame, a life of not feeling enough. And it doesn't have to be like that.
No, you're right. And it's crazy how we want to push ourselves back to what we're comfortable with, even though it's destroying our life. It's like I've had some gals on my show who went through a lot of marital abuse, and you hear that a lot of them go back, and they go back because it's comfortable to them, even though they cannot stand being there, and they're getting beat up and pushed around and talked bad about. All of us do that, even us guys. I mean, we go back. You talked about the shame and that fear. It's that fear of the unknown of where can we go with this, right? So we go back to what's comfortable to us. And again, it's that practice. It's that practice of recognizing this stuff and going, okay, wait a minute. I don't know if some people may know this, but when we have a thought, our thought's going from one neuron to another neuron, and in between there's a gap, and that's the stimuli. And in between that time, that's when we make our decision. That's where we make our choice, right? Choice A or choice B. Sometimes there's multiple choices. It's like when I lost my leg. When the doctor came in and said, you just may lose your leg, the first thing that popped in my head was my life is over. My daughter was right there. She slid over, grabbed my hand, and I'm just listening to the doctor.
Let's say this real quick. At the time of this recording, this was just 2 months ago. So
2 months ago.
Those that are listening, Al's sitting here at the prosthetic leg, lost his leg 2 months ago. So this is raw. This is fresh.
Yeah, very, very fresh. And I'm in the emergency center, and he's telling me this, and he's like, well, I'm going to go look at your other test results. I'll be back here in a bit. Let's just kind of see. But he's like, I'm just letting you know. I mean, he didn't blink an eye. He just came right out and flipping told me. And all this stuff's going on in my head. Great. My life's over. I'll never drive my truck again. I'll never kick the soccer ball with my grandkids again. I'll never go hiking again. I'm never going to do this again. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Oh my gosh, I'd love a line of Coke right now. Oh my gosh, I could use a whiskey and a Coke or something, you know.
I
and
could only
all
imagine.
this stuff is going on through my head. Luckily, with all the years that I've worked on myself, and again, I'm not patting myself on the back because it's taken time, and you know this as well, Adam. It takes time for us to get to certain points.
Yeah, it's a process.
Right? It's that process. And all of a sudden, I stopped myself. And I went, okay, this is a new chapter. My life's not over. Hell, I've watched people in the Ironman that have 2 amputated legs, and they're freaking running around and flipping rocks and crawling over fences. And, you know, there's people that have climbed mountains. You know, one person with no legs climbed, I don't know, I think it was the Himalayan or something. She did it on her elbows. It was a female girl, you know, and she got up so far, never been done before. And it's like, the hell am I thinking? My life's not over. This is a new beginning. What is going to come out of this? And I started telling people, I says, I'm actually really excited to see the blessings that come out of this. Instead of going, what's the bad shit that's going to come out of this? I don't want to choose to see that. Now, have I been 100% strong and uplifted the whole flipping time in the last 2 months? Absolutely not.
If you said you have been, I think I'm like, this man's lying.
Right. Yeah. See, here it goes back to the integrity, right? There was a couple mornings I woke up in the hospital looking down, and I'm just freaking bawling my eyes out. Like, a part of me's gone.
See, I think it's important that you feel that. You have to, you have to, again, addiction, like, we don't allow ourselves to fully mourn. Mm-hmm. You know, it keeps us, it's like, we don't want to feel the levels of pain more often than not, emotionally and mentally. And so it's too intense, but the reality is you've got to feel it to heal it.
Absolutely.
You know, and so, yeah, there's grace. Feel it. Like, be angry, sad, painful, hurt. Like, you just lost your leg.
Yeah.
You know,
and
it's funny even now saying right now, even for you.
It is.
Even for you, I'm guessing for you now, right? Because the work you've done, you're like, it's funny to even think that I had a whole thing around even like having this moment of being like,
yeah.
But it's like, we're human, and it's like, we get to be human, and it's okay. It's okay to be a complete shit show.
It is. It is. And I'm glad that you put it that way, you know, because even if I'm working with a client or I'm doing an interview, and especially for us men, right? Because of the way society, we're not allowed to show our emotions. Because if we do, we're weak. I remember the first time I did my very first public speaking, I was up there bawling. And afterwards, I was apologizing to people. And people were like, what the hell are you apologizing for? My gosh, you had all of us crying in the freaking audience. We felt it from here. What's really helped me in all these years is I have learned to allow my emotions to go through their emotion. You know, living in this beautiful valley that we live in, you know, we got the beautiful Wasatch Mountains to the east, and we've got, you know, the West Mountains, the Ochres out there to the west, and a lot of our storms that come in, they come up over the Ochres, and you can watch the storm coming across the valley, and then it disappears and the sun's out again. That's how I like to look at my emotions. I allow my emotions to go through and take their course. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't care if someone walks in my room while I was in the hospital, which happened a few times. The nurses walked in and I'm just sitting there freaking bawling, you know, looking down, missing a limb. But I've allowed my emotions to go through and take their course. The secret of it is do not stay stuck there. Allow it to take its course. Allow yourself to feel those feelings and then go, okay.
So the secret's to not
Time
stay
to go.
there. So what happens is people don't have the tools. So what would you say from your experiences? I hear you. Staying stuck and it doesn't help. Mm-hmm. How does someone get out of it when they don't know? I mean, what would be something very practical advice that you would give our listeners as far as like, when someone's stuck, how do they get unstuck?
I mentioned earlier in the show, we can't do it alone. None of us can. Whether you hit your knees and you go to your higher power, whatever your higher power is to you, or you have somebody that you know who has gone through it and you reach out to them. Yeah. Because we can't just call a friend. I mean, we can if they've gone through the same type of stuff, right? And we talked about it. People who work in recovery for addiction, 99% of them have all gone through an addiction. They understand what the people that are there, what they're going through. They get it. So I would say get a hold of somebody, find somebody. It's that extra tool in your tool pouch. It really, really is. And as you grow, you just keep adding those tools in there for yourself. You know, it's I have coaches. You know, there's people that I called, hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. I don't know what to do. My head's spinning. It's hurting. I don't know which direction to go. And, you know, they're going, okay, well, tell me a little bit more. And as you're speaking to them, they're literally guiding me without me even realizing that they're guiding me, you know, and I'm actually coming up with my own answers. And that's what helped me get through a lot of that. And now it's a point in my life now where I can recognize it. Yeah. And I can go, okay, I don't want to get stuck here. Because I could sit here in this hospital bed and I can feel sorry for myself, and I can wake up every day crying, and I could cry all frickin' long, all day long, and just say my life's done, I'm over with, I give up. Or I can go, let's see what I can do with this. Yeah. Let's see where I can go. You with the bodybuilding, I competed in my mid-30s. It is so frickin' strict. You live, breathe, sleep a competition to get your body to change where you need it to change.
I have so much respect for anyone that's done this, and like I can't
so much
say
work.
Yes to this, but I'm still in it. We'll see, you know. But like yeah. I mean, I believe the difference between someone that makes it or doesn't make it is really comes down to the person that made it, whatever made it is or has success, is that they were willing to do something the other person's not. Period. Mm-hmm. End of story. Like I think anything's possible. I mean, the relationship, the money, the body, the mindset, the spiritual connection, all of it's possible. But what are you willing to do to get it?
That's exactly right. You know, Mike Tyson said, you know, Mike Tyson used to like to know how early his component got up in the mornings to train. If they got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, he got up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because he wanted that extra edge, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get him to stay where he wanted to stay. And it goes with us the rest of our lives, right? How far do we want to take it? How far do we want to go? We can all succeed in something, whatever it is that we want to go after. God gave us all that talent. We got it inside of us. It's always been inside of us. However, it's like a wolf chasing a sheep, you know? Usually if a wolf's chasing a sheep, the sheep just gives up, goes, that's got me anyway, I might as well give up. So it literally just stops. Yeah. You know, well, do we stop? Or do we go, oh, hell no. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going as far as I can flip and go, and let's see where it goes. And sometimes it throws you the curveball. Sometimes you're going after something and you get blindsided and get redirected, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually the direction that I'm supposed to go.
100%.
Yeah.
So Al, where can our listeners, you know, learn more about you, find more about you, and get involved in, you know, in where you are today and where you're headed?
Wow. Well, they can find me on Facebook under Al Richards, or AR, The Other Side of Addiction.
And we'll put this all in the show notes too. Just want to give you a chance to kind of plug some of your stuff here. So
yeah, and if they're interested in coming on as a guest, even, you know, just reach out to me. You can email me at mralrichards@gmail.com. Reach out to me. I'd love to have you come on and share your story. And, you know, for me, where I want to go, working on just building my coaching. I've been a certified international crisis recovery coach for over a year. Haven't really pushed it too much, but now I'm really starting to get myself out there and get going on that one. I want to help as many individuals as possible. And you probably know this as well, Adam, with doing the work that you do. It helps us as well. I think we grow from it more than our clients do, to be honest with you. You know, and speaking engagements, I love getting out there talking to recovery communities. I'm working on trying to get in some of the correctional places myself right now. Just getting out there and sharing a story, let people know that you have the ability to change your life in any freaking direction you want to change it. And it is definitely possible. Yes, you may have to change some things. Yes, you may have to get rid of some friends. I ended up having to get rid of some friends. I had to just, not saying that they're not friends anymore, but they're at a distance. You know, my bubble is very small. There's not a lot of people that I let inside my bubble that really get to know Al Richards. but I also have a lot of people that are just on the outside that are still phenomenal, amazing individuals. And
change is uncomfortable.
it's very,
And, change can be hard. And I always say the hard button becomes the easy button the more you do something. What's hard for you might be I could do in my sleep, and what's extremely painful and, I could be frozen thinking about doing something for you. It's like you can do in your sleep, and again, why is that the case? Well, you have more experience with this, and maybe I have more experience with that. And at the end of the day, it's all rooted in a story. So it's like, and again, most of what we're fear or scared of, no matter how bad it is, it's never as bad as we actually think it is, and sometimes even through the very painful, fearful things, like there's just 100% of the time that I've seen in my own life and the lives of countless others is there's always a light on the other side of it. Again, taglines, freedom's in the fire. Everything we want's on the other side of what we're avoiding, what's scaring us. And if we just lean in and trust, right, that's where magic happens.
yeah. Well, that fear, I like to say, if you're getting ready to do something that scares the living shit out of you, that's your sign to do it.
Exactly.
Because it's the fear that the opposition is putting in you to keep you from getting to where you're supposed to go in your life.
Yeah, I echo that.
Yeah.
Al, it's a pleasure. You articulate things well. I appreciate your openness, your vulnerability, your passion, and this is very passion driven for you because of your own journey and all the mishaps and where you are today compared to where you were. It's taken a tremendous amount of work, tremendous amount of effort, pushing through, your own limiting beliefs and self-doubt. And here you are just 2 months later after losing your leg, like, goodness gracious, right? And you'll rise to the occasion, and it's like, and there'll be some incredible, beautiful things that are going to come your way as a result of this, and I believe life's happening for us, not to us. And that's a choice. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm in my darkest or deepest or stressful moments, I have to remind myself, this is happening for you. This is a gift. What's the lesson? Because I don't want to be stuck in it. And more often than not, I get my own kind of spiritual downloads, inspiration, quick little zings, and it's like, and then when I learn to express gratitude for what I'm going through, it shifts the energy around it, and then I move forward.
Yeah.
So anyway, brother, appreciate you.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you for all our listeners, and we'll see you next time on the Burn Up Podcast.